SABC, host broadcaster of the G20 South Africa 2025.
All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Of course, it has been a fantastic broadcast, rolling coverage for you right here at the Nasrec Center, as the SABC has been the host broadcaster of this spectacular broadcast, of course, bringing to you live blow-by-blow coverage of the Leaders Summit. It is day 2, and it is the final day of the Leaders Summit.
And Unati, when we speak about rolling, we're not talking about rolling and then cutting.
No.
We speak about rolling coverage as the SABC, right? We had you covered on the pop-up channel. We had you covered on the radio stations. We had you covered right here. And this is not possible without all of us working here.
Absolutely.
Under the leadership of our group CEO, Nomsa Chabeli. Nomsa, you must be exhausted. It's the last stretch.
It is the last stretch. It's the last hurrah. But how exciting has it been?
Fantastic.
It's really been exciting. And I think for us, right, we sit here. We get to sit here. The viewers see us sit here. There's a lot of work that goes behind a production like this. There's a lot of work that goes behind being a host broadcaster.
It's indeed a lot of work, but I think I must just start by saying let's recognize the teams that have worked so tirelessly to put this together. The SABC has really deployed one of the most biggest infrastructure deployments across this precinct, across editorial, across technical, our operations team. We are here, broadcasting to the world. We are broadcasting to 19 of the G20 member countries. We are giving the feed to 50 countries, including the international news services. And that's just outside of just broadcasting internally into South Africa, into the rest of the African continent.
And if you're wondering, sorry, Unat, if you're wondering about the feed, right, that we're talking about, just watch on the side of your screens. You'll see the feed of the heads of state arriving. You'll see everything that we've been sending to the world. It doesn't capture it all, but we did way more.
Yeah. And I mean, when we're talking about just how huge of a task and a role it has been for the SABC, we actually did a dry run, if you will recall. I mean, we had different segments start right at the beginning of, the South Africa's presidency, just to unpack. And I mean, how important was it for the SABC to make sure that the discussions that will be held here are unpacked, across all our digital streams, across our television stations, radio stations, so that South Africans are also taken along this journey. How important was it for the SABC to make sure that those segments begin right early on, so that when it comes to the Leaders Summit, everyone understands the mandate?
So it was very important for the SABC to journey throughout the presidency of South Africa for the G20. So we didn't just start this last week to start discussing it, to start making South Africans understand what this was all about. We've been there from day one, so that we take them on this journey, they gain an understanding of the importance of the G20, the role it plays from a global perspective, from an African perspective, be able to understand what it means to their own lives. You might be sitting in South Africa and you're thinking, yes, I'm seeing all these planes arrive, but what does it mean to me? What does it mean in terms of geopolitics? What does it mean in terms of what we are seeing taking place in the world? So it was very important for the SABC to take South Africans along, to make them understand that this is not just an isolated event, but how it plays a bigger role in our daily lives. But what excites me the most in terms of the SABC is that it's the wall-to-wall coverage that we gave this important gathering. And to your point, Unati, not just this week, but throughout, whereby it was broadcast in all South African languages for people to genuinely understand, to genuinely participate. And most importantly, that it's equitable. We have to be very certain that we are not excluding South Africans from these very important conversations, that this is not just for the haves, it's for everybody. It's about building resilience in South Africa's democracy. And to build resilience, it means people must be informed. And that's why it's been so important to take throughout this journey to ensure that we have the presence. We were at Unga, we were everywhere where these discussions were taking place, obviously culminating in today.
And it speaks to the core of our mandate because information is what we deal with, but that information shouldn't just be given to members of the public. We must process it, we must tell them why it matters, and they must know why they choose us as their trusted source of news.
I think that's what's important about the SABC. It's basically the transparency, the balance, the analysis, the insight that we bring in. That is very important. You know, we always say we must be careful that our people are not stuck in an echo chamber of algorithms. They need to get credible information. So that's what the SABC brings through, because we are not just about breaking news, etc., but we are about fact-checking. We are about the quality of the content that we take out to the people. And I think that's what's important if you think about us as a host broadcaster. I think public broadcasting internationally is going through a phenomenal change. You know, the media industry is the most impacted when it comes to digital transformation. And SABC, it was important that when we deploy, we think digital first. So it's not just about linear TV, it's not about traditional radio, it's about content. And how do people consume this content throughout this period, ensuring that it's where they are, where they want it, across whatever device that they choose to consume it on. And that's what's been important for SABC.
And I mean, a lot of people have actually said that, you know, the SABC really captured all of the elements. How important was it for you particularly to ensure that whilst we do that, there's also that balance with editorial direction? And I mean, we haven't seen you every day just talking about the direction from an editorial perspective. So how important was it for you to have that balance, to make sure you spoke about the teams that are involved, to make sure that those teams have that independence, you know, to capture the moment? I mean, I was talking to some of my colleagues earlier on from radio, saying that they were working on a particular theme for a week and how they managed to capture that on radio and also in our pop-up channel, you know, with some of our teams that have been hosting the pop-up channel.
I think we have to trust our processes as the SABC. You know, we have to trust our process. We have to trust our editorial teams. We have an editorial policy that is very clear, that must be followed to the letter. Because if we actually compromise on our editorial policy, we lose the credibility. And as a public broadcaster, you cannot ever lose credibility because you must be known for truth and for delivering a balanced message to your audiences. That's something that we cannot compromise. So yes, you don't see me at the forefront. There's a lot of work we do at the back. And one of the key things I was saying to people is that, you know, we spend months planning, you know, the G20. We've spent months planning SABC's broadcast, ensuring that we don't have black on air, ensuring that we don't have technical issues, ensuring that editorially we cannot be found wanting. And that's the role as leadership that we plan. And once you deploy, you have to trust the people to deliver. You have to trust the fact that they are committed to quality, they are committed to operational excellence. And that's what I saw play itself out in the last couple of days. We started with the B20, we went into the social, you know, the summit, we went into, it culminated into the B20 Leaders Summit itself. And sitting behind the scenes and watching and listening, it's a moment of pride, not just for us as the leaders of SABC, but it's a moment of pride for South Africa. Because we can do this. You know, I always look back and I say, we delivered a very successful 2010 World Cup. We must never forget that. You know, when Philip was here, and SABC was in the forefront of that, you know, from a broadcast perspective. And here we are now with the G20 Leaders Summit, with SABC being very important, not just for broadcasting internally, but for that dedicated news feed across a multiple of platforms. So for us, that's what's important, that you have to trust that you've got the right person at the right time in the right place, and empower them to be able to do their roles. Yes, there's going to be challenges, but the most important thing is how we manage that behind the scenes, you know, and that's the role that one finds, that's the role that I play.
I must say, there's one thing that excited me so much, you know, during this week and the weeks before and the months. The SABC Plus app. You know, you just have a whole new world there. And it really gave us a sense again, as the SABC, to say, guess what? You just have a new world. You've spoiled for choice. Just choose the SABC. Please, let's talk about the app.
The SABC Plus app is a phenomenal, you know, platform for SABC. It's the fastest growing OTT streaming platform in the country. It really represents, I think, the best of public broadcasting. and it's coming out of the African continent. You know, we always say you don't see unicorns coming out of our continent. Yes, you've just seen one coming out of a public broadcaster. We launched it in July last year, and at launch, between launch and now, we now have 1.690 people registered. That's above 1.6 million registered users of the SABC Plus app. But that just goes to show, in terms of an understanding of our audiences, that we are utilizing the data that has come in front of us to understand that we're in the content industry, we're in the information economy, and the reality is that we are all fighting for share of attention. And as the SABC, you can imagine yourselves sitting in the seats that you're sitting in, the amount of information that you have to deal with on a daily basis. But the most important thing is that then how do you stand out? How do you make sure that audiences choose you instead of someone else's platform? And the SABC Plus has played that role. It does a lot of curation. For the G20, we have a special pop-up channel just for the G20 itself. Obviously there, from an availability perspective, you find all the radio stations, all our TV channels are present there. We've got pop-up channels that are happening at the moment. So it plays a massive role in terms of ensuring that audiences can consume wherever they are, whenever they want, across any device they want to consume.
Thank you so much.
Nomsa, thank you so much.